In the last few days, Sayadaw has been explaining the word sati, the word patana, and the word Satipatthana. He asked, what are these? And he's answered that. He's explained how to note in terms of the theory and also in terms of practice. And he used expressions like, for example, seize and capture, according to the Burmese idea, this and attacking the enemy's position and not having any consideration, not showing any kindness for kilesas. So, and in order to reveal the meaning of the word patana in Satipatthana, he explained Paṇḍitā Sayadaw, which means it enters into the object, penetrates the object, and Paṇḍitā Sayadaw, which means that the noting has to be done with a high velocity, and Paṇḍitā Sayadaw, which means that noting, the mindfulness must spread over the object. And he used examples about how one has to rush forward and how in battle one has to attack the enemy position without delay, without any delay. One must have speed and one must aim and fire. So some people think this might express insensitivity and cruelty. But these are examples of tasks that need to be done. And although some people may not like the use of terms without consideration for others, showing no sympathy, not considering one's environment and so on, that might not seem very good. But people can understand the quality, like how children rush forward eagerly to do something. And when they rush forward to do something that they like, they just disregard whatever's around them because they're so interested in what they're going to see. So today, Sayadaw wants to explain how this attitude of not being considerate, not being kind, is useful and appropriate in the practice. And he wants to also explain how, when we note the object at the moment that it occurs, what forces are needed. And he'll also describe the lakkhana, rasa, pachupatana, and padatana of sati. Now, Mahasi Sayadaw had a saying to explain the importance of observing the object on time, which is pit kait shu mathabawa mocham yin. And that means this, that whatever arises must be noted at the moment of arising. Only if we note at the moment of arising will we see true nature, will we know true nature. So he spoke in general terms of, in Burmese it's whatever arises, basically. So whatever arises, he didn't say specifically. That means any object that we observe can be substituted in this Pikaichu Mathabawa Mocham Yanandi. So whatever arises, that means sometimes seeing arises, sometimes hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, rising, falling, bending, stretching, lifting, moving, placing, hardness and softness, stiffness, tension, and even blinking of the eyes, opening and closing of the eyes, and touching, and sometimes it can be mental objects, thinking, planning, considering, evaluating. It can be anything like that. So there are 6 objects, and any one of these can be what arises. And these are what really occur. So this is the sabhava, the true nature, that is mentioned in the saying. So every rising, falling, sitting, touching, and so on. There are many, many things. And all of these can be considered to be something that arises. Now this word, the Burmese word kite, at the moment that it arises, it means at the present moment. What arises at the present moment. And Sayadaw is going to explain this saying in terms of specific objects. Okay. The way I translated the phrase in Burmese is, only if we note in time will we see nature true. Now, to note, in Burmese, shoot, it means to look. And to say that we need to note in time, or to note what is arising, that means while it's happening, not after it's finished. We need to note it at the moment that it occurs. Whatever object occurs within our larger field of awareness. So what do we need to do in order to observe the object? We need to look. So we need to look straight at it, and we need to focus on it. We need to look where it is, not too short and not too far away. So if we look, we'll see. So in this example, we need to have faith. We need to trust that looking is worthwhile, and we have to want to see. We have to have the desire and zeal to see, and we also have to have energy. We have to apply atapa, energetic effort, be active to observe the object. So in order to get to the arising object at the moment that it arises, we must exert energy and be active. We can't just note or look in an ordinary way. And we must have the quality of aiming and focusing. Now, the aiming is like getting the object. What should I say? Aiming at the object. But just by doing that, we're not necessarily in focus yet. You have to look in the right place, and you also have to have your lens in focus. So this is the quality of vitakka, aiming and focusing. And the focusing part of it is a jhanic factor. Vitakka is a jhanic factor, and this focusing implies this jhanic quality. Now, if we aren't correctly focused, if our focus is drawn too close, we'll be too short. We'll fall short of the object. And if our focus is overextended, then we'll overshoot the object. So this quality of focusing must be exact. We need to aim, and we also need to focus. So every time an object arises, we need to direct our minds to the object, apply energy, and make sure that we're in focus. So aim and apply energy. And that's what's meant by this word in Burmese, shu, but we mean to observe. Every time an object arises, we have to apply energy. Every single second. And we also have to have aim and focus every single second. Now, if these qualities of applying energy and applying aiming are constant, they can dispel obstacles in our practice. And if we have aiming and energy to a small extent, they'll overcome these obstacles a little bit. If we have a moderate amount of aiming, focus, and energy, then we'll be able to overcome obstacles to a moderate extent. And if we have a lot of aiming and energy, then we'll be able to overcome these obstacles completely. So we must always apply energy. And the reason for this is that, especially the beginning yogis, biggest enemy is laziness, wanting to take it easy. And applying energy is the way to overcome the mind that wants to give up, take it easy, be lazy. And the quality of aiming and focusing opposes sloth and torpor, this sluggish state that makes the mind wither up, and it makes the mind close up the way a flower closes up. When tina and mida, sloth and torpor, attack the mind is neither fresh nor open. But when we aim at every arising object, the mind becomes active. This quality of vitakka makes the mind active, and it makes the mind open the way a flower blooms. It makes the mind be like that, open and blooming. So, most important thing for starting yogis is every single second to have aiming and effort, whatever our object arises. So we need to examine ourselves. Whatever object arises, do we note so that we get to the object in time with aiming, focus, and active energy? So only if we note in time, these words, only if we observe in time, only if, that means that we must observe in time. So we need to contact the object with our mind. We need to sink into the object. So Sayadaw mentioned in previous days that when we aim at the object and we apply energy, the quality of vichara arises, and the mind actually, it seems like it rubs against the object. Now, at first, so with aiming and effort present, and vichara starting to arise, knowledge is not there yet, but this is the basis for knowledge to arise. So we apply energy to reach the object, and we aim. And, for example, if the rising occurs, we aim and we apply the energy to reach the object, and then it's as though the mind rubs against the object or it hits it directly. So we see the true nature that is there. We start to see the true nature of the rising. When the falling occurs also, we apply energy and we aim so that we contact the object. We hit it directly, we rub against it. And when that happens, there's no doubt about what it is we're observing. There's no room for us to question, have any question about what is it, what was it. Because the mind contacts, rubs against the object, contacts it directly, then doubt is quelled. Doubt is a quality, vicikicca, which cannot decide about the object. And vichara, the quality of rubbing, is the direct opposite of vicikicca, doubt. So when vichara arises and contacts the object, then doubt or vicikicca cannot arise. If we're able to contact the object often, if we're able to do this a lot, then the nature of effort is apparent. So when we are able to hit the object again and again with our mindfulness, we're able to be accurate in our aim. We become happy and satisfied with what we're doing, and it's very interesting. The mind becomes still And to be free of these, free of disturbances, is very pleasant. And it's like when we're playing darts. So if we play darts and we throw the dart at the target and hit the bullseye, we apply enough energy, just enough energy, so that it reaches the target, sticks, and it gets right to the bullseye. When we do that, we feel happy. And if we're able to do it time and again, every single time we throw the dart, we get a bullseye, we'll feel really pleased. When we note, if we note the object accurately, the object is like the target, and if we aim and strike the object time and time again, we'll know the taste of the object, and we'll also be very happy with what we're doing. When one can note so as to reach the target every single time one notes an object, noting with aiming effort and contacting the object with vichara, then enjoyment with interest, joyous interest, or piti, arises. And piti is a quality, joyous interest. When we have joyous interest for the object of observation, then there's no place for dissatisfaction, vyavada, to arise. Now, dissatisfaction, dislike, anger, it can even get to the point of when we feel anger towards another person, we can have resentment. And these are very unpleasant qualities, and this is vyavada. When we have joyous interest in the object of observation, this piti, or joyous interest, is the opposite of vyavada. And so we're free of that. We're free of vyavada when we're noting with energy, aiming, effort, and then piti arises. And also, if every time we note, our mind falls one-pointedly on the object, this is ekaggata, or samadhi. So this one-pointedness of mind, the mind is just falling on the object one moment after another. Now, with this ekaggata, there's no room for kamachanda, the obstacle of kamachanda, to arise. Kamachanda is wanting to see good things, wanting to taste good things, wanting to hear, smell, think, and so on. It's wanting good objects, wanting. No? There's no place for that to arise because the mind is just falling on the arising object one moment after another. So in this way, the obstacles to our practice are overcome. These obstacles are called nivaranas, and they block kusala, they block wholesome dhammas. Wholesome dhammas cannot take place when the nivaranas are there, and they make our mind muddy. So when these nivaranas are gone, when they're not present, the mind is bright and clear. And this happens because one can observe the arising object with full power and knowledge. And this is what is meant by the Burmese saying, Pikai Shu Mathabawa Mocham Yin is when we note in time, when we observe the object in time with full mental power, then and only then are we sure to see the true nature of the object. This situation that Sayadaw describes of being able to overcome nivaranas with one's noting, that will happen for yogis who, first of all, understand Satipatthana practice, and then cherish and value it. And due to cherishing the practice, they note respectfully and continuously. If one doesn't do that, then one won't know anything at all. When one practices, it shouldn't be just like we're reciting a book, reciting something that we're reading. In observing the object, the most important factor to have is the application of energy and also aiming. These two are the most important if we're going to truly observe the object. When we have those two qualities, when we apply energy and we aim with focus, then the mind will rub on the object, vichara. Piti, joy, joyous interest will arise, and one-pointedness, ekagata, will arise. These arise naturally if energy and aiming are present. And if one is noting in this way, when the energy is strong enough, then momentary samadhi develops. Khanika samadhi develops. And that's like when one is able to hit the target every single time, hit the bullseye every single time with one's dart practice, which is noting, which is like dart practice. So when we can hit the object directly every single time, we will see true nature. We'll see the true nature of the object, what is really there. And it all boils down to, being able to note the object in time. We try to observe the object the moment it arises, applying energy and aiming, and the mind rubs on the object. This observing at the moment of occurrence is the cause for us to know. So what it boils down to is, if we see, we'll know. And if we look, we'll see. So if we don't look, we won't see. So we need to look. So if you want to see the true nature of the object, you have to note it at the moment that it appears. You have to note what is obvious at the moment that it arises. And only then will we be able to see the true nature. Now the yogis who are starting out, when they sit, at the time to sit, then the yogis put the attention on the abdomen in order to observe the rising and the falling. And when the rising is there, we apply energy to observe it. We apply energy so that we reach the object in time when it's there. And when the falling occurs, right when it happens, we apply our energy so that we'll be there as it happens. And we aim so that we'll be in focus. In walking meditation also, so that is what is meant by noting in time, being in time for the object. And in walking meditation, every time we lift, we apply our energy so that we are there with the lifting as it's happening. And we aim at the lifting object. Moving, every time there's moving, we apply our energy and aim. Every placing, we apply our energy and aim. So we have to be alert and we have to have momentum. We have to hustle like we're trying to get the ball in the ball game. And we have to be active. If we can have these qualities that Sayadaw mentioned, if we can note, according to the meaning of Satipatthana. Then sometimes as we're noting and we put our attention on the abdomen and are observing the rising and the falling, sometimes what we'll observe is the form. We'll know it's a stomach. We'll be with the form of the object. And sometimes what we'll know is it's rising, or it's falling. And this is called the manner. It's how the object is situated. And if we note a lot, if we can note again and again, often, with aiming and effort, and our energy becomes strong, then we'll start to know things like stiffness, tension, movement, relaxation. These things are called sabhavas. And in the phrase, only if we note in time will we know nature true. This is true nature. This is ultimate reality. So there are 3 levels of observing that we encounter in the practice, that everybody encounters in the practice. And the first is the level of form. It's called santana panyati. It's the concept of form. It's a concept. Okay? It's a conceptual level of knowing. And the second level that we'll come to know is called akara, which is translated as manner. And that was described as, for example, when the abdomen rises, it's the situation of rising. It's the manner of rising. But those 2 things are concept. They're not ultimate reality, but at the start, our observation is not free of concept. At the start, we will see concept. But when the mind sticks to the object, there's energy aiming, it's in focus, the mind goes past form and goes past manner and comes to know what's the true nature that is really there. This things like stiffness, tension, lightness, and movement, so on. And that's the beginning of this work that was described as Pitkait Shumathabawam Mocham Yannainzi. That's the beginning of understanding. Only if we note in time will we see nature true. So the 3 things that we need to understand is that there's form, manner, and true nature. We need to understand these 3 levels that are observable. And when something is obvious, we have to note it. So what appears, we should note it. And we should be able to say what we know about it. So we should observe what is obvious. When the obvious object arises, we observe it. And due to the observing, what do we know? We should be able to say that to the teacher. So when we make effort and aim with focus, the mind contacts the object directly, and gradually we come to know about it. And Sayadaw used the example of making a fist. And if you can try it for yourself, if you make a fist, really hold your hand tight. What do you know about it when you make your hand into a fist? If your mind is, you may see the fist, you may see that it's a hand, you may see that the manner of it, the fist it's in a fist, or you also may see things like heat or tightness. And if you do this for a long time, you really can know it's unpleasant. And these things, the heat, tightness, unpleasantness, these are all true nature. And due to the oppressive feeling of oppressiveness of this unpleasant feeling, there's the desire to open the hand, to relax. And then when we relax, what do we feel? So what we can observe is what Mahasi Sayadaw described in his Pikai Shu Mathabawa Mocha Minayandi. And only if we note in time will we see nature true. So we should try this for ourselves. This is one example of how we can know. And tomorrow Sayadawji will continue to talk about the theory and practice. That's all for tonight. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.